The referee counted to 3, then locked the cage door from the outside. Bumpy Johnson was inside a boxing ring with 14 men. No rules, no rounds, no mercy. They thought numbers would win. They thought trapping him in 16 square feet would give them the advantage. 12 minutes later, all 14 men were on the canvas. Bumpy stood in the center of the ring, not a drop of blood on him. This is the story of how Bumpy Johnson turned a death trap into a demonstration of power. September 9th, 1957. The night the underground fight world learned that Bumpy Johnson wasn't just a gangster. He was a fighter who'd never forgotten where he came from. To understand what happened in that ring, you need to understand the setup. The Valentino brothers ran the biggest underground fight club in New York, basement of an old meatpacking plant in the Bronx. Every Saturday night, gamblers, mobsters, and thrill-seekers packed in to watch bare-knuckle fights. No rules, no regulations, just violence and money. The Valentinos had lost territory to Bumpy over the past year. 3 policy banks, 2 numbers operations, a gambling house. They wanted revenge, but they were smart enough to know they couldn't take Bumpy in a traditional war. So they planned something else, a fight, public, humiliating, fatal. September 5th, 4 days before the fight. Bumpy received an invitation, hand-delivered by a teenager who didn't know what he was carrying. The card was simple. Underground Championship, September 9th, 11 p.m. You're invited as the guest of honor. Illinois? Gordon held the card up to the light, checking for poison, checking for tricks. Boss, this smells like a setup. Bumpy nodded. Of course it's a setup. The Valentinos aren't subtle. They want me in their territory, in their building, surrounded by their people. So we don't go. We go, Bumpy said calmly. But we go, knowing it's a trap. That's the advantage. September 9th, 10:45 p.m. Bumpy arrived at the meatpacking plant with Illinois and 4 soldiers. The building was surrounded by cars. Music thumped from inside. Hundreds of people. A doorman stopped them at the entrance. Weapons check. Bumpy's men tensed, but Bumpy nodded. They handed over their guns, knives, brass knuckles, everything. The doorman smiled. Mr. Johnson, you're expected. VIP section, follow me. Inside, the basement was packed. 300 people, maybe more. The air was thick with cigar smoke, sweat, and money. In the center of the room stood a boxing ring, regulation size, 16 by 16 feet. But the ropes had been replaced with chain-link fencing, 8 feet high, a cage. Bumpy studied it. The cage door had a padlock, heavy, industrial. Antonio Valentino stood ringside, grinning. He was the oldest brother, 45 years old, built like a bull. Bumpy Johnson, welcome. We're honored you accepted our invitation. Bumpy walked to the ring. Nice setup. Cage fighting. Moscow rules? Something like that. Antonio gestured to the ring. We've got a special exhibition tonight. Thought you might enjoy it from the best seat in the house. Inside the ring. Bumpy looked at the cage, looked at Antonio. You want me in there? As our guest of honor. You'll have the perfect view. Bumpy smiled slightly. And if I decline? Antonio's grin widened. Then everyone here will know the great Bumpy Johnson was afraid of a boxing ring. Bad for your reputation. Bumpy looked at Illinois. Illinois shook his head slightly. Don't do it. Bumpy turned back to Antonio. All right, I'll watch from inside. The crowd cheered. Antonio clapped. Excellent! Step right in. Bumpy climbed through the cage door. The canvas was stained with old blood. The floor was solid. The cage walls were reinforced. No way out except the door. Antonio followed him in. Now, there's one more thing. We're not just showing you a fight tonight. You're going to be in the fight. Bumpy's expression didn't change. How many? 14. My best fighters. All of them at once. No rounds, no breaks. You stay standing for 10 minutes, you win. You go down, they don't stop. The crowd roared. They'd known. This whole thing had been advertised. Bumpy Johnson versus 14 fighters. A spectacle. Illinois tried to climb into the ring, but Antonio's men blocked him. Guns appeared. Just Bumpy, those were the terms. Bumpy held up a hand. Illinois, stand down. "Boss?" I said, "Stand down." Bumpy's voice was calm but firm. He turned to Antonio. 14 men, no rules. If I win? If you win, you walk out of here, and we never touch your territory again. And when I win, Bumpy corrected, you're going to pay me $50,000 for my time. Antonio laughed. Confident, I like that. Fine. You win, you get 50 grand, but you're not going to win. He climbed out of the cage, signaled to the referee, a scarred ex-boxer named Paulie. Lock it. Paulie pulled the cage door shut, snapped the padlock closed, tested it. Solid. Then 14 men climbed into the cage through a second door on the opposite side. That door was locked behind them too. Bumpy studied his opponents. They weren't street thugs. These were fighters. Real fighters. Tommy, the Hammer Ricci. 6 feet 4 inches, 240 pounds. Former heavyweight contender. Mickey Brass Donovan, Irish bare-knuckle champion. 3 brothers from Sicily, the Rossi boys. All trained in savate and boxing, 9 others, all big, all experienced, all paid to hurt Bumpy Johnson. The referee stepped out through a small gate, locked it behind him. Now it was just Bumpy and 14 men in a locked cage. Paulie raised his hand. No rules, no mercy. Fight ends when one side can't continue. Ready? Nobody answered. The 14 men spread out, surrounding Bumpy in a semicircle. Paulie dropped his hand. Fight! The crowd exploded, screaming, betting, chaos. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. The 14 men watched Bumpy. Bumpy stood in the center of the ring, hands at his sides, breathing slowly. Then Tommy the Hammer charged, massive right hook coming at Bumpy's head. Bumpy slipped it. Minimal movement, just enough. The fist passed an inch from his face. Bumpy stepped inside Tommy's reach. One punch. Solar plexus. Tommy's air exploded out. He doubled over. Bumpy grabbed Tommy's head, pulled it down, brought his knee up. Contact. Tommy's nose shattered. He dropped. 8 seconds. 1 down. The other 13 rushed at once. No strategy. Just overwhelming force. But Bumpy had been fighting multiple opponents since he was 15 years old in Charleston. He knew the secret. Keep moving. Never let them surround you. Use them against each other. He moved to his left, putting 2 fighters between himself and the others. Ducked under a swing, came up inside. Elbow to the jaw. That man dropped. Another came from behind. Bumpy sensed it, spun, caught the punch, twisted the wrist. Bone cracked. The man screamed, went to his knees. 10 down, 11 to go. 2 minutes elapsed. Mickey Brass came in with a combination. Jab, cross, hook, fast, technical. Bumpy blocked the jab, slipped the cross, caught the hook on his forearm. Pain shot through his arm, but he didn't flinch. Bumpy countered. 3 punches, ribs, jaw. Mickey staggered back into the cage wall. The Rossi brothers coordinated. 1 high, 1 low, 1 from the side. Teamwork. Bumpy dropped to the ground. Let the high punch sail over. Swept the leg of the low attacker. That brother fell. Bumpy rolled, came up, caught the side attacker with an uppercut. The brother's head snapped back. He went down. 5 minutes. 8 men still standing. Bumpy was breathing harder now. Not from exhaustion, from focus. He had to track 8 opponents in a 16-foot cage. Every angle, every movement. 2 came at once from opposite sides, trying to pin him. Bumpy waited until they were close, then dropped and rolled forward. Both men collided where he'd been standing. Heads cracked together. Both went down dazed. 6 left. The crowd was screaming. Nobody had expected this. 14 professional fighters and Bumpy Johnson was dismantling them. The remaining 6 tried to reorganize, spread out. But there wasn't enough room in the cage. They kept bumping into each other, into the walls, into the men already down. Bumpy picked his moments, waited for openings. One fighter overextended. Bumpy grabbed his arm, used his momentum, threw him into the cage wall. The chain link rattled. The fighter slid down. Another tried a tackle. Bumpy sidestepped, brought his knee up into the man's face. Down. 4 left. 8 minutes elapsed. These four were smarter, stayed back, tried to tire Bumpy out, wait for him to make a mistake. But Bumpy didn't make mistakes. He controlled the center of the ring, made them come to him. One lunged, Bumpy parried, countered with a straight punch to the throat. Not hard enough to kill, just hard enough to stop breathing. The man collapsed, gasping. 3 left. One of the Rossi brothers, the last one standing, came with everything he had. Desperate. Bumpy blocked, absorbed, waited for the opening. Found it. 1 punch to the temple. The brother's eyes rolled back. He fell. 2 left. 10 minutes. Mickey Brass and 1 other fighter. Both bleeding, both exhausted, but still standing. They looked at each other, looked at Bumpy, looked at the 12 men on the canvas around them. Mickey dropped his hands. "I'm done. You win." The other fighter nodded. "Me too. We're done." Bumpy lowered his hands. Smart choice. The referee, Paulie, stood outside the cage, mouth open. The crowd was silent, stunned. Antonio Valentino's face was white. He'd just watched one man dismantle 14 of his best fighters in 12 minutes. Bumpy walked to the cage door. "Open it." Paulie hesitated, looked at Antonio. Antonio nodded slowly. Defeated. Paulie unlocked the cage. Bumpy stepped out. Not a drop of blood on him. His suit jacket was gone, shirt untucked, but otherwise unharmed. He walked straight to Antonio, held out his hand. 50,000, cash, now. Antonio stared, then slowly pulled out a briefcase from under the table. Opened it. Stacks of bills. He handed it to Bumpy. Bumpy took it, turned to the crowd. "Let this be a lesson. You can have all the numbers you want, all the weapons, all the plans. But if you don't have skill, discipline, and the will to never quit, you've already lost." He walked out. Illinois and his men followed. The crowd parted like water. Behind them, 14 men were being helped out of the cage. Broken bones, concussions, shattered pride. The story spread through New York in hours. By morning, every fighter, every mobster, every street hustler knew. Bumpy Johnson had been locked in a cage with 14 men and walked out the only one standing. The Valentino brothers honored their word. They never touched Bumpy's territory again. In fact, within 6 months, they'd left New York entirely, too embarrassed to stay. And the underground fight clubs? They added a new rule. No gang-up fights. Bumpy Johnson ruined it for everyone. September 9th, 1957. The night Bumpy Johnson proved that skill beats numbers, that discipline beats chaos, and that no matter how many men you bring, if you're fighting a king, you're going to lose. If this story inspired you, smash that subscribe button. Drop a like if you believe one skilled warrior beats 100 untrained soldiers. Share this with someone who needs to know that quality always defeats quantity. What would you have done locked in that cage? Let me know in the comments. More legendary stories coming next. Don't miss them.